Well, Friday we had that slight conversation piece across the paddock where both Lewis and Max were in a spot of trouble. And that's where this whole drama or whole mystery came about with regards to the gap in the DRS, because that was after Friday's qualifying session, wasn't it? So
should we talk
should we talk about that now and then go on to sprint and then on to the main race? I think trying to keep it in order. So just
start with some big drama.
Yeah, exactly. It's not usually we end up with massive drama in qualifying. We haven't talked about qualifying this much since Russell got P2 in Spa, but we forget about that whole debacle. But to summarise, Lewis was disqualified from qualifying on Friday due to a technical infringement on his DRS. From what I understand, and this is in real simple terms, the maximum gap in the DRS once it's closed is allowed to be 85 millimeters, period. Nothing more.
You mean once it's open?
No, it's when the gap's closed, isn't it? No, it's once it's opened. I do apologise. Yeah, when it's opened, it's allowed to be 85 millimeters. The car passed that test before Friday qualifying. So before the car went out on Friday, all the cars are scrutinised and the car passed the test. Now they've got this disc-shaped thing. Basically, imagine a lollipop, which has a disc on the end of it, which is 85 millimeters wide. Now if that goes through the DRS, it means the DRS is too big. But there's a second piece of the test as well. That DRS has to withstand 10 newtons worth of force being applied against it. So they have this Newton meter, I believe that's the correct terminology to use, and then this disc, and they're pushing against the wing. And if the car can withstand 10 newtons of force and the disc doesn't go through, it has passed the test. It's pretty black and white whether it passes or fails. There's not much room for error. There's not much room for error. So when Mercedes came back after qualifying on Friday, the test was then reapplied as per Parc Fermé rules, I should imagine. I guess it's one of these tests which happens all the time, but we have never known about it up until this weekend. And Mercedes failed that test because, from what I understand, the car was 0.2 millimeters out of, a bit larger than it needed to be. So actually that disc went all the way through. And in some places it hit the DRS, but after 1 or 2 newtons worth of force, then it went through, suggesting that the wing wasn't up to standard and had a little bit of flex in it, and obviously failed the test.
It was just on the right-hand side, wasn't it? It was just on that right-hand side that it went through.
Yeah. So Mercedes' stance on the wing is that it broke during the session, which makes complete sense because it passed the test prior to qualifying, it came back after qualifying, and it failed the test. So the logical explanation would be that it broke during the session, and this was a failure during the session, which has caused them to fail the test. However, obviously, there's lots of rumours and discussion points around the paddock whether Mercedes have been using the extra space in their DRS to gain an advantage during qualifying, because Lewis did out-qualify everyone by 0.4 of a second, which was quite a lot around the Sao Paulo track, because it's not a long track to be almost half a second ahead of your competitors.
New engine notwithstanding.
Yes, of course, there was a new engine as well, which is one of the penalties he took. And then alongside this, once this was all happening, to top it all off, Max got into a spot of trouble, didn't he? Because he got out of the car pulling up in second place on Friday's qualifying session, pulled up into Parc Fermé, had a look at his own rear wing, and then had a look at Mercedes' rear wing. And by having a look, I mean pushing and pulling or holding or touching. Touching's probably the right word. We don't know if any pushing or pulling was done, but he definitely made contact with that rear wing, which breaks Parc Fermé rules in the sense that those cars aren't allowed to be touched by anyone other than the people...
Sebastian Vettel,
Inspector Seb, / everyone who's going to be testing those cars to make sure they're legal. Now, this was a strange way to start the weekend. I mean, it was great. There was drama all over the place. It's not the weekend I'm sure Mercedes wanted to have to start off. But Alex, I've kind of just summarised the Friday session and why both those drivers got into trouble. What's your thoughts on the whole situation and how it was handled?
Yeah, it was an unusual one. I definitely recommend, if you haven't already, to read the steward's notes in full, as they're very thorough, quite interesting. They summarise that they're satisfied with the cause of the infringement and possible incorrect assembly or whatever, and that the design was created with the intent to meet the regulations. So I think any accusations of cheating are pretty weak, I got to say. Not only that, but I think I said shortly after the race, Mercedes as a team, they don't really need to cheat, do they? This is the team that rocked up to pre-season testing in 2020 with a steering wheel that could move in and out and change the toe of the car. Like, they don't need to cheat. Like it seems like, and it would be a strange way to cheat as well, because as we've seen with the scrutineering process, it's pretty easy to get caught. So that seems to be out of the question. I think that disqualification was the only option, of course, because the laps were completed with an illegal rear wing. So there's no question of the punishment. He would have undoubtedly gained an advantage. I mean, 0.2 millimeters is not enough, but it's not much. Sorry, but it's enough to gain an advantage of some kind. And then, yes, Max Verstappen fined €50,000 for touching Hamilton's rear wing. How will he cope? I mean, the man's earning probably about 20 million a year. I don't understand the point of these penalties if they're so pathetic. I mean, if you fine them like $1 million, then they're not going to go homeless, are they? But it's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
50,000 is pathetic. Like, what are they supposed to do about that? And Hamilton was also fined later on for taking his seatbelt off after the fact, wasn't he? I don't know how much that was. 20,000.
His was no. His was a whopping €5,000.
Oh, 5,000! Blimey!
Yeah.
He'll make that back in. He probably made that back 10 minutes after he was given the fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Max might feel a little bit unfairly treated, as I joked about Vettel earlier. Plenty of drivers have touched competitors' cars in Parc Ferme, and the part that he's touching has obviously been a point of contention between the teams, and it's important to note that the stewards were satisfied as well that Max had not actually done anything to the wing. He was just checking it. But it does make you wonder on the rules, because they say that there should be no unauthorized operation, checking, tuning, or repair. Now, what constitutes checking exactly? Just simply looking at another competitor's car? At what point does looking become checking? Because it doesn't say touching.
No, I get what you mean.
It's very, very vague, isn't it? So I think Max might feel rightly a little bit hard done by there, but I don't think the €50,000 fine is going to be too much of an issue. But the end result was Lewis's disqualification and everything to do on the sprint race.